Self-love. What an interesting topic. Nowadays, it's very trendy. Like you said, a lot of people are using uh, self-love as a tool for healing and growing, expanding. And my experience with self-love is deep and it involves a lot of twists and turns. Uh, but I'll keep it short. That is to say, one thing that I've really learned about self-love practice, uh, self-love is not a tool to use to ignore the things that are opposite of self-love. So, uh, self-love is not a tool for me that I use to ignore aspects of self-hatred or self-denial. In fact, what I found to be most potent for my practice is to marry the two, which is to say, I take time to love the parts of myself that don't love me back and get to know them, nurture them, communicate with them, and ask them questions uh, so that the relationship there and the connection between what we would call the two forces in the CHEK system is strengthened. Uh, I see a lot of social media that surrounds self-love that preaches this idea of just loving the positive aspects of ourselves. Claiming that we are beautiful, acknowledging our power, taking it back, and that is a vital first step on an ever-ending climb through self-love. But I think it's very important to consider aspects of ourself don't change. And if we're coming from a place of obesity or addiction, and we're considering that we're being shown and given all these different ideas about what we should be doing, it's important to come back to our heart and to listen, to ask ourselves, what is it that you need from me, and what do you need to hear? So that may not be, I love you, or I am beautiful, or an affirmation. Sometimes that may be, I acknowledge how poorly you feel about yourself, and I hear and feel how unworthy you are. Thank you for sharing that with me, and I couldn't be more grateful that you took the time to do that. So that we're not suppressing aspects of ourselves, which in fact can be well intended, but is the origin, in my experience, of addiction and obesity. Instead, we're bringing them to the surface and nurturing them like little children who need our attention and will throw fits and temper tantrums whenever they feel like it. But our practice is learning from them and remaining patient as we grow and expand, and make sure that we acknowledge that in others as well, because my experience, although I said I'll keep this brief, I just want to mention, is that a lot of the things that we take on from other people we think are our own. Experienced this with my parents and my family, a deep feeling of unworthiness or fear. As I go deeper into it, I think, this may be mine as I'm feeling it, but a lot of this is not. So the more you communicate with those aspects of self, you can see, well, maybe this is my grandmother's, or maybe that was my childhood best friend. So the onus and the pressure is not on me to solve everything. It's just to be present with it.
Definitely. That was beautifully said. And something there that I think that you touched on, and the way I kind of view it is we tend to numb. We tend to numb ourselves as opposed to digging into the deep shadows, digging into the less favorable aspects of ourselves. And I think that's kind of what you're hitting on there. I think that with the self-love, we can use that as a Band-Aid and a numbing approach where we're not really getting to the root of the problems. As you said, it's a great first step because it's all well-intentioned. But at the end of the day, we need to find those shadows. We need to go into those closets, find the deep, dark places that we're afraid of, that we're suppressing, that we're covering up, that we're numbing, whether it be through addiction or addiction to food, addiction to drugs, addiction to whatever it may be. So I would like to hear your thoughts and your experience with diving into those shadow areas. What tools and techniques do you use to dive into those areas, like the body image, areas that you found over the years were less favorable in terms of how you view them about yourself, and just areas that are difficult and challenging and things that are not readily talked about in the public narrative?